Hey guys, Weir, road2roo.com. Let's talk general markets. Completely rigged 100% of the time at all times. But there's so many different markets they could rig. The Dow, gold, silver, crypto, oil, foreign exchange. They're busy. They're busy at the basement of the U.S. Treasury. Yes, there's an electronic trading room in the basement of the U.S. Treasury linked to the Fed New York where they do all the rigging. The Exchange Stabilization Fund works out of that. Insane. Insane. But I like to look at it every once in a while because I don't watch the markets. And when you know they're rigged, it's like, what do? You just let them sit and you fight the rigging on the flip side, shall we say? But let's look at the S&P futures streaming chart. This always cracks me up because you can see if you like, go to the smallest unit, you can see how obvious the rigging is. So this is the 1 month chart. Looks kind of normal. Yeah, everything's going up. That's the way they want it. And keep it going, right? Look at the 1 day chart. Look at these big candlesticks. These are smashes. If you want to go lower, you smash it. You want to go higher, you bring it up slowly. That's the way they do it. But look at this stuff. How about the 1 hour? These are absolutely maneuvers by market riggers. And sometimes they're huge, out of control huge. I mean, you could say, look at the 5-minute chart. On the little chart, you're like, with all the people investing in the S&P 500, what are these big slam downs or slam ups, or what is it? Who's fighting who? The person with the biggest computer and an unlimited balance sheet, obviously, is the Exchange Stabilization Fund. They can do this anytime they want. And they don't even have to do anything. They click a mouse about a range they want to be. They'll slam it down when they need to, and they'll bring it up slowly when they need to. That's how you get these long bull markets. Stuff like this doesn't happen because everybody's excited about the economy. It's full of shit. The biggest problem I have with technical traders and people who trade, I'm a hodler. Everything I have a hodl. Silver, gold. I don't have any gold. Cryptos, I hold on to it. Why? Because you don't know when they're going to click their mouse. This is a great breakdown of 7 impossible trading rules to follow. If you follow these rules, you're going to make money in a freely traded market. The problem is the market isn't freely traded. 1, sell losers short. Let winners run. It seems like a simple thing to do, but when it comes down to the average investor, sells their winners and keeps their losers, hoping that they will come back to even. Number 2, buy cheap and sell expensive. Sounds so easy, right? You haggle, negotiate, and shop extensively for the best deals on cars, flat screen televisions, etc. However, you will pay any price for a stock because someone told you on TV to do it, instead of making investments when you are getting a good deal on it. If it isn't, it isn't. Don't try and come up with an excuse to justify overpaying for an investment. God, that is so applicable to cryptos. When do people buy cryptos? When they're running up. I'm going to get this. What happened in end of 2007, people were using their wins because it was hard to buy cryptos with cash. They were using their wins in one crypto to jump into another and back and forth and back and forth. Always looking for the best one who's moving up the fastest. Unfortunately, that flips around and everybody loses everything when they run the price down. This time is different. As much as our emotions and psychological makeup want to always hope for the best, this time is never different than the past. History may not repeat exactly, but it often rhymes extremely well. Number 4, be patient. As with number 2, there is never a rush to make an investment. There is nothing wrong with sitting on cash until it's a good deal, a real bargain. Number 5, turn off the television, obviously. Now, turn off the television goes for everything, especially cryptos. You could do the opposite of what you're hearing all the time on TV and in the media and do very well in cryptos if you're a trader. Number 6, risk is not equal to your return. Taking risk in an investment or strategy is not equivalent to how much money you will make. It only equates to the permanent losses of capital which will be incurred when you are wrong. Number 7, go against the herd. That's almost impossible. The populace is generally right in the middle of a move up in the markets, but they are seldom correct at major turning points. When everyone agrees on one direction of the market due to any given set of reasons, generally something else happens. However, this also sees to the point 2 and 4. In order to buy something cheap or sell something at the best price, you're generally buying when everyone is selling and selling when everyone is buying. These are obvious. Everybody should know this, but it's almost impossible to do in real life. Charles Hugh Smith, really good mind. He writes a blog called Of Two Minds, and he's saying the hour is getting late. After 11 years of Fed in the market expansion, the Fed is now reducing its bloated balance sheet by 6.7%. This is normal, right? So here we are in year 11 of the longest economic expansion stock market bubble in recent history, and by any measure, the hour is getting late. And he quotes a Bob Dylan song, which is one of my favorites. So let us not talk falsely now, the hour is getting late. That's where we are. But it doesn't mean the market's going to go down. What I think is the market's going to freeze and stop trading, because the Fed, who Charles Smith nails it, has orchestrated this bubble, doesn't want winners at the end game. How do you not have winners when you've created the largest stock market bubble in history? You can't let short sellers win. So you run it up, and then all of a sudden you freeze the plumbing. As in derivatives fighting each other, everything gets blocked and frozen, and then we have to shut down these criminal exchanges, which is the only way for the banksters to get out of it anyway, because they rehypothecated everything. So I do not expect a massive end of market type of thing, because then the short sellers, I expect an end of market, not a playable downturn in the market where the short sellers win. They don't want winners. They want to freeze the market and stop everything. That's the only way the banksters will get out of their rehypothecation problem. Another good article, Yarny warns 20% pullback could strike early next year. Could strike at any moment with a click of a mouse out of the Fed. Again, nothing is real. It's all fake. Computers and derivatives invented by Alan Greenspan in the 1960s and 70s. That's what drives markets up, down, or sideways. And those same computers are going to freeze the system when the time is right. That's why I keep looking at the repo saying, what are they going to do? What are these hedge funds going to do who were lent by JP Morgan through these sponsored repos, $300 billion a day, if they don't have that into 2020? I think we're going to find out. And here's the big one. The oil market has been, you've all heard of the petrodollar. Nobody really knows what the petrodollar means other than the secret agreement that the U.S. forged with Saudi Arabia to price the world's oil in U.S. dollars, creating artificial demand for U.S. dollars. Oil is the number one commodity bought and sold in terms of dollar values, but also in terms of derivatives. You look at the derivatives on oil, off the charts. Off the charts. Crude oil, 50,000 different types of crude oil and all the different offshoots of oil. Natural gas, plastics, you name it. There's so many offshoots. You add up that derivative market, you get hundreds of trillions of dollars. That's why oil is so important, especially for the U.S. dollar. It creates artificial demand for the U.S. dollar. That's why we bomb people if they say they're going to trade oil in different currencies. But here's a good article, and it's going right to the experts. How's the oil market going to do over the next 10 years? State of the global economy, U.S. shale production and export growth, and OPEC alliance between the cartel and dozens of non-OPEC producers led by Russia will continue to influence the price through 2030. Geopolitical flare-ups and U.S. sanction policies towards major oil producers, including Iran and Venezuela, will also shape the supply side of the market over the next few years. On the demand side, the growing share of renewables in the energy mix and the increased use of electric vehicles will begin to displace meaningful volumes of fossil fuel demand in power generation and oil demand in transporting over the next decade. Many analysts say growing climate concerns may also impact investment decisions in new fossil fuel production, including oil. All the oil companies are pulling back. They are screwed with the equipment they already have. The fundamental supply-demand picture will likely be more of the same, but the push and policies towards greener economies could be the factor shaping oil markets and influencing oil prices over the decade. According to S&P Platts Analytics, alternative energy, including renewables, higher EV penetration, and hydrogen use will limit overall use of fossil fuels. As we enter a new decade, the energy complex feels like it is all cascading towards a race to the bottom, S&P Global Platts Analytics said in a research note. Why is this important? Because it means less oil means less use of the US dollar. The petrodollar is reversing. Just other countries are using other things to trade for oil. But that whole system was set up in the 70s by Alan Greenspan and friends. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go to the Wishes and Rainbows comic book. Page 12. When Ruda's, which is Alan Greenspan, monetary attempt to control the system with computers and derivatives and gold was failing, what did he do in the 70s? They invented the petrodollar. They required Saudi Arabia to buy oil in US dollars, and they required Saudi Arabia to reinvest it in the stock market. Win-win, cycle through. Kissinger and Greenspan. That was their idea. And look, it's even talked about in the Road to Ruta comic. Oh, look, Ruta, the bright and pretty flowers, which is the gold standard, has become wilted and gray. And what happens? The gray flowers shed black tears. Doesn't look like hard, they call them hard black tears. What this comic, when I first read it, I'm like, this is the weirdest freaking comic ever. Until you really dive into it, go to roadtoro.com. There's a video on it right at the top. This is absolutely the invention of the petrodollar. With the colored flowers, this is what Arthur Burns, who's the grandmother, is telling Greenspan. And Lowell Wiltbank, Greenspan's computer programmer. The colored flowers cannot live without the golden light of the world above, but it is said that these tears will grow new flowers if they receive the light. Watch for the gold, watch for the golden light. Ruta plants the seeds, and voila, you got more colored flowers. To sustain the unbacked fiat monetary system for as long as possible, soaking up all the benefits of unbacked fiat money. That was done with computers, derivatives, and the petrodollar, the agreement with Kissinger, secret agreement, Kissinger, Greenspan, and this is the early 1970s. Voila, everybody must buy oil in US dollars to create artificial demand for the dollars. If you do not do that, we bomb you. And that's been shown many, many times over. Read Confessions of an Economic Hitman. That book will blow your mind. And the following books. This is so not a secret. And yet, the schmoes on MSNBC and the television and Wall Street Journal will say, oh, yeah, everything's going fine. Everything's going fine because it took a lot of effort to rig things fine. And now we're at the end game. Another part of it, voila, banking basics. I've talked about this at the Road to Ruta. The same day that the Fed Boston put out the Road to Ruta comic books, they put out 3 comic books. One was Wishes and Rainbows, this one right here, that I've showed you many times, introducing the character Ruta, or Root A, a Fortran programming term, or Alan Greenspan. If it's getting in the weeds, you need to go to the Road to Ruta and watch the videos. That was number 1 comic book. Number 2 was a teacher's guide. Because people couldn't figure out this comic book. They made a teacher's guide talking about the need to go back to a gold standard from the Fed. And number 3 was this booklet called Banking Basics. Banking Basics came out the very same day on the very same page. It didn't have a red exclamation point like the Road to Ruta and Wishes and Rainbows had. Those 2 had gigantic red exclamation points at the Fed on January 1st, 2007. And what did Ruta write in the sand? 9/11. 11 plus 9. When did the economic system fall apart and everybody draw their money out? On 9/11/2008. And then when did the recent crash happen with the repo markets were needed to be instigated? 9/11, 2019. Go back and look at it. On 9/11, that's when the problem happened. And then the next Monday is when the repo world went crazy and the Fed opened the floodgate. This is all planned, my friends. But anyway, page 30 of bank. Well, first of all, look at this. There's some great pictures in here. Look at that one. Since when do little girls go into banks and exchange gold coins for fiat money? It's all part of the plan. But look at page 30. What is this? Is right? You can still go to the Fed Boston and look up the booklet Banking Basics. What does page 30 talk about? Page 31. Why do banks fail? This is from the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. And the very first one, Gusher National Bank slips on falling oil prices. They know, especially if they introduce the new technologies, the new energy technologies that will kill fossil fuels, which is a bunch of bullshit anyway. Gusher National Bank slips on falling oil prices. Falling energy prices mean cheaper gasoline and lower home heating bills, so falling prices must be good, right? No, not for everybody. For the investors in oil, it is the worst thing because it is a huge infrastructure investment. And the oil companies are absolutely taking gigantic billion-dollar write-offs right now. What happens at the end? Finally, Gusher lost so much money to bad loans that government regulators had to step in and close the bank. Gusher had fallen victim to changing economic conditions and falling energy prices. High concentration of loans to energy companies, that is happening right now. But there's two banks that they talked about. And then right between the banks is this. The GATA picture, the gold antitrust action picture with full sunlight and an open Fed door. The second part was failing mortgages. Bedrock Banks gets too big too fast. They were investing in real estate. Boom, 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 crash done. This is all coming from the Fed. You want more information? Go to Road to Ruta. It is time to learn, everybody. It's all free right at the top. Right there. Start with that. Discovering the Road to Ruta. And if you want some real cool stuff, hit resources. And that's where you'll find the comic books, the Grand Canyon Gold article that was removed by the New York Times. How many times has the New York Times removed archived articles? Luckily, on the Road to Ruta, I saved it. Tell of vast riches in the Grand Canyon, billions and billions of ounces of gold. It's all at Road to Ruta. Go to roadtoruta.com and you'll find all the stuff you need. Watch the two videos. Start with an introduction to Ruta and then golden oldies to the crypto future. You guys will love it. It's Weir, roadtoruta.com. Talk to you later.